Pill Talk family, this is your host, Dr. Bar 2. Before we jump in this episode, I want to make a great announcement. We're having our first networking event in Washington, D.C., July the 2nd at a Speakeasy and on U Street, one of the most popular areas of D.C. So make sure you get your ticket now on Pilltalkpodcast.com and see me there, meet me there, and join the network yourself. So, Dr. Andreia, how you doing today?
I am well. How about yourself?
I'm great. Let me not jump over the introduction. So you are a family physician. You got your degree in osteopathic medicine. You're out of Alabama practicing and teaching people how to be healthy using your planner. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, thank you for joining. I know you have a busy schedule helping the community, so I appreciate you taking some time out for us today.
No problem.
All right, so let's jump into it. What gave you your spark to get inside medicine, to become a physician?
So, interesting story. So, I am a Alabama country girl, grew up in rural Black Belt, Alabama, a teeny tiny town that has, I think, maybe about 400 people there. So, growing up, you know, you kind of have to make your fun a lot of times. So, of course, we had toys and stuff like that. But with having so many open fields and things like that outside, bunch of trees, you're always finding stuff to get creative. So there was one day, there were 3 girls in my neighborhood, and we were playing on some old trees that had fallen down, and there were really true story. And there were some tree stumps. So we ended up, I don't know if we were trying to make the tree stumps a stage. I'm not sure, but we each stood on a tree stump. And somehow we started talking about what we wanted to do when we grew up. So when it got to me, I originally said I wanted to be a nurse. So, you know, I was like, okay, I'm on this path to being a nurse. But I was talking to a young lady in my church who was actually going through nursing school at the time, which I didn't know. And so, you know, I was telling her, I was like, hey, I want to be a nurse when I grow up. You know, I was around maybe 6 or so. And she asked me if I had ever thought about being a doctor. And when she said that, I was like, doctor, you know, of course, I had a family doctor that was in my town, and it was a man, really nice, but I never thought about doing it myself. So once she said that, you know, it got me thinking, okay, you know, maybe I can be a doctor. And so she was actually, so I knew I wanted to go into health, but she planted that seed to make me think that, hey, I can go into health and also be a doctor. And so later on, I was in middle school, or just before high school, my dad had a health episode where his belly started enlarging and he was having belly pain, and we couldn't figure out what it was. You know, initially, you know, I'm from the country, so we'll say you got gas, maybe take some baking soda or castor oil, something like that, you know, to try to remedy it. And none of those things worked. And so my mom ended up taking him to an ER that was maybe about 30 minutes away from our home. And so from what I gathered at that time, they really just kind of wrote it off, didn't really do a thorough evaluation, and they sent him home. And it still didn't sit right with my mom. So she decided to take him to another ER that was about 2 hours away. So once he went there, you know, they did their evaluation, and after everything came back, they found out that he had a ruptured appendix and ended up having to have surgery. So, wow. You know, at that moment, I was like, okay, I know people make mistakes, but for that to be my dad and for me to be close to my dad, it was at that moment that it was definitely solidified that I need to be a part of the medical field as a doctor and provide care to people, and not only just care, but actually listen, make sure that I don't miss. And of course, we're all humans, so and we're not going to get anything perfect, but that taught me that you should treat all your patients like you would want somebody to treat your family. So that was the definitely like solidifying moment for me to become a doctor.
I can see, like, when something like that happens, that is like very influential. And to a lot of people, like, we actually need like an advocate for our health, like African-American people, minorities, because that first hospital, they probably just ran a general test and not really look deeper into it. And like, sometimes we need that person to be like, nah, did y'all check everything out? Like, I know y'all did the basics, because I know emergency rooms, they really got to stabilize you and then they can release you. So they probably did the stabilization part and was just like, well, we don't see nothing so far, so he should be fine. I'm sorry that y'all had to go 2 hours out for someone to really look into it, but glad you guys did.
Right.
So did he got the surgery and got better?
So he got the surgery. Everything, was fine after that. But, it brought our family closer. And like I said, it solidified that for me. And now, he was able to go back to doing his normal day-to-day activities after the surgery. So at that point, everything was okay, for several years. Until he experienced some other health issues, but he's still alive and living today. So,
all right, great.
Yeah, so everything, so it all worked out, but it was just, that's something that, I feel like will always stick with me, and how I felt in that moment. And to this day, I try to treat all of my patients like I would want somebody to treat my family members, because even though family can come to me and say, hey, what do you think about this? I remind them, you need to run this by your doctor. But at the same time, I can't be there to go with them in the world everywhere that they have to go. So I always try to treat patients like I would want somebody to treat a family member.
Yeah. Same here. When people come into the stores, you always want them to feel that connection, because they're actually able to open up more and you can able to assess and help them more. Because if you don't, or if they don't feel like they're comfortable talking to someone in general, they kind of hold back some of the information. And
that's true.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that too, even when I have been, I have done clinic work actually in the office, but also telehealth, especially nowadays. And I've had so many patients to tell me, I feel really comfortable with you. I feel like I can tell you everything. And some things they tell you, they aren't medically related. And you're just like, wow, you really do trust me. You really do trust me. But you want somebody to feel that comfortable with you and to get to know them, because it could be that one little thing that completely changes your medical management based on that, based on what they're going through, based on their lifestyle. And it makes them more open to whatever it is that I have to say. And it also makes them want to go back home and, pull that husband or brother or uncle or whoever in there. I've even had one patient to tell me, she was like, I need to bring my husband in to talk to you because he'll probably listen to you because he won't listen to me. She was like, so it's just things like that, being able, as a family medicine doctor, you get to treat the entire family. So, I've seen kids, that have grown up. Now they're getting ready to start middle school. Their bodies are changing. They have questions. And I always let patients, especially my preteens and teenagers, the parent may come in with them, but, towards the end of the visit, when I'm kind of wrapping up, I always, give the child the option to just kind of talk to me one-on-one. And I'd like to start it kind of early so that they'll get comfortable with talking to me. So when they have those really big questions or curiosities that they're embarrassed to ask their parents. We've developed that relationship. So, when the parent leaves out that time, and 100% of the time, the parents are okay with me doing that. That way I can have that one-on-one time with the child, and, I just tell them, what we say is between us. And you can ask me whatever, no matter how silly, whether it's about your body, somebody else's body, whatever it is, feel free to ask me whatever it is that you want. And the first time they may not do it, but eventually they're able to do it later, when they're like really, really scared about something. And also what I found, I had one particular patient who she was, something happened to her medically, and her mom wasn't there, and she wasn't afraid to talk to the medical professionals because she was more comfortable. She was scared, but she was more comfortable doing it because she was able to talk to me. So it didn't make her as uncomfortable because she was used to talking to the doctor. So that was one of the highlights that I really liked about being able to develop that relationship with families, as a family and individually as well.
Nice. And I know one of the things that I think a lot of doctors probably overlook that you use and I use as well to help our patients get more familiar with us is we go by our first name. So that kind of takes away some of that barrier of like superiority that some people feel when they come into the doctor's office. Mm-hmm. Because I know just talking to people in my setting, they're like, oh, I feel comfortable talking to you because I'm talking to them like you said, like a family member, like a cousin, a brother, or whatever. And they address me by my first name. It's not like they have to stop and be like Dr. Wilson or something like that. It's like, oh, this Dr. Bar too. What's up? How you doing today? Like it makes them more comfortable. Like, do you get that same thing as well?
Yes, because, most of the patients are okay with that because it seems like they still respect my position, but it makes them feel more relaxed because I'm Dr. Andreia. They don't feel like, they don't feel as intimidated. Patients who I've had for a while, they have absolutely no intimidation. But initially, especially when you're trying to develop that relationship, it kind of makes them feel like, oh, I can actually let my hair down a little bit and open up to her because she's actually a real person, not just a doctor in a white coat, if I have the white coat on at that moment. So it really, there's still a boundary, but it makes me feel like I'm even more approachable because of that change that I decided to make. Nice.
What made you make that change? What made you want to go that route?
I think, like we said before, it's just more personable and just it makes people think, oh, she's a doctor, but she's a doctor that's also a person who I can talk to. They feel more, I feel like it has helped with the level of comfort with the doctor-patient relationship. And it's still a doctor-patient relationship, but it also makes them feel more comfortable, like they're having a conversation with a family member who's not going to go and tell any other family members because I'm going to keep things confident. So, whether it's, in the office or it's, through video, like they know that, they can be themselves completely. Everything is confident. They can be comfortable. I'm not going to judge them, because, we've all been through something. We all have a story. And, as medical professionals, we are here to help them get better, whether that's help, by just talking, where, the medicine is there, of course, but sometimes just being a listening ear, I have learned that has helped that can help so many people, especially with some of my elderly patients. I had this one lady, she was like in her 70s, and she, and I don't mind giving hugs. And I gave her a hug one day, and she was just like, she grabbed my face and she was like, "You're my best friend." And I took that as she could come to me, she can talk to me, she could be herself, she can say whatever to me. I would listen. She didn't feel judged. Whatever it is that she needed to let out, whether it was something that was going on with her or she needed to talk about something else personal outside of her health, she could, I was kind of an all-in-one ear for her. So that's what I really like, being able to, have that relationship where they still respect my position, but it kind of helps them to relax a lot more.
Yes. And that's going to lead into the next question, because once they get relaxed with you, they can actually open up and share their medical history. And can you tell people what is the importance of knowing your medical history and keeping a track and monitoring it throughout life?
Right. So monitoring your health is super important. And, I've seen a lot of people, just kind of go day to day. And I understand, outside of being a doctor, I'm a real person too. So I get it. So I get it that, we're busy, we're doing things for work, we're doing things for kids, parents, siblings, what have you. But at some point, you have to make your health a priority. The earlier you start, the better. It's so heartbreaking to see someone who hasn't been to the doctor in years, and then we start doing some of those basic screenings or just asking some basic questions, and what they're telling you, it makes you go down a road of figuring out what's going on, and a lot of things are super advanced. So if you make it a part of your routine, then, you're not saying those things are not going to still happen, but they're less likely to happen. Or if they happen earlier enough, most of the time there are things that we can do to help to keep them from advancing. And something I always like to say is, we make sure that we keep all the maintenance done on our car. We get the oil changed, we get it washed, we get new tires, whatever it is that we have to do so that we can keep going to, football games, basketball games, going back and forth to work, even things, going to the airport to go on trips, things like that. But we have to make sure that we're making our health a priority, because there is nothing worse than being in my position as a doctor and the whole family literally has to stop because of a health issue that makes you stop right at that moment. So if we make it a part of something that we do on a routine, on a regular basis, then, we're less likely to have those like pump the brake moments at that time, because of things that are going on that have been brewing for so long that we don't know about it. And then we get to that point.
Yes. Before I go on and talk about lifestyle modifications, can you give people a way that they can get in touch with like a family provider or something like that? If someone wants to start getting their health in order, starting their medical history now, and they're like, I don't have a primary care physician, how can I find one? Can you describe that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so I always tell patients, word of mouth works wonders. So if you have, a good friend or, that aunt or uncle that you talk to all the time, ask them, who they recommend. That's a good place to start because, and again, just using a real life situation. If for the guys, if you find a barber that like makes sure haircut look like none other, you are not going to keep quiet about it. You are going to recommend them to whoever. Same thing for the ladies. If you find somebody who can who can do your natural hair, or, you know, if it's hair you want to buy, whatever it is, if you find somebody who does a great job, then you are going to recommend them. And I know the same thing for me, even if it's a place to, you know, I need a coat or something like that, you know, I'll call a friend and say, hey, where'd you get such and such from? So I always tell them, start by, and people may not necessarily talk about their doctor all the time, but if you ask them, then they can recommend someone who is really good and may even give you multiple options. Also say, you know, look around on social media. If you're a social media person, there are lots of doctors who are out there providing content, and some of them may be in your city. So you can, you know, kind of see what they're putting out there. Go to Google, look at reviews if you're not familiar with that person, or if you've asked around and people really don't know, you can look at reviews. And also you can review that doctor's website to see, you know, if there are certain things that you're looking for. You can see if they're able to provide that, or if they've had some interesting experiences that are in alignment with what you're looking for. That can also help as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just for a quick plug, if you're really looking for a primary care physician, you can always check out Pilltalkpodcast.
And that, yes.
Yes. All right. So now we know that how to find a physician, the importance of monitoring your medical history so that you can know what's going on before something stops you in your tracks.
Right.
Let's talk about lifestyle modifications like diet and exercise. You mind speaking about that?
Right. So, you know, I tell patients that, you know, I have so many, you know, pills that I can prescribe and, you know, send them to you to go and get them filled. No, the medicine is always there. There are a bunch of tools that we have, you know, from a medicine perspective, but also use your body as a tool as well. If you're not exercising, and, you know, you don't have to go out and feel like you have to start doing like CrossFit or anything. Start by just walking. You know, so walking can do wonders, you know, whether that, you know, you may want to start with just 15, 20 minutes, work your way up to 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I even like doing fitness classes because I feel like they kind of hold me accountable, especially if it's so funny. I did Zumba a couple of days ago. And, you know, when you're in there, you're moving, you know, you're going at your own pace. It makes it fun. So you don't always have to do the same thing all the time to get moving. The key is to just start. And once you start and make it a part of your routine and become consistent with it, you know, that can do things like lower blood pressure. You can lose weight. You'll feel better. Your clothes will likely look better and fit better. So that's something that you can do as well. And also paying attention to what you put in your body. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to cut anything out, you know, right now. But if you don't want to cut it out, maybe you can cut down on it and watch your portions. So whereas you may have a plate that's usually like running over onto the table because you've got so much stuff piled on it, you know, make your next goal, okay, we're not going to run the plate over. We're going to stay within the plate. And then the next time, you know, work on getting smaller portions, you know, that way. And those are also things that can help as well. And I'll use myself for an example. It's been a couple of years, it'll be 2 years this month, I decided to go vegan. And it's a funny story because one day I was just craving just vegetables, didn't really want any meat. It was the weirdest thing that ever happened. I don't ever remember a time of that happening like ever in my life. So it just was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just eat vegetables. And then I started looking at some other people who were kind of on a vegetarian vegan journey. So I was like, well, let me just try it out just to see. And I had gotten some blood work done and my cholesterol was a little bit elevated. And I was just like, where did this come from? You know, because it hadn't always been like that. And so I was like, well, this is a good time for me to make some changes with that, just to see what I can do without medicine. And so I kept doing it and kept doing it. And I used to have, it wasn't a huge hip pain, but just like a minor ache that I used to have in my hip as well. And I noticed as I got further out from that little aching, it went away. So I stuck with that. And ever since then, when I've had my blood work done with my doctor, everything has been good. So using myself as an example, exercising helps. And also the types of foods that you eat and the portions that you eat, that can also help to bring your numbers down to where they're more in normal range or close to normal range. And for me, that made the biggest difference to help push my cholesterol where it should be.
Nice. Just going to put some of my little tad bits and pointers in there too. So one of the things that I learned in pharmacy school when we was going through diet and like diabetes, when you buy plates, like the sets, you get the really big plates and then you get the little smaller plates. So one of the things that we learn, like when you're teaching somebody with diabetes, is instead of you getting that big plate to fix your food, get the smaller plate and fix your food. Because just by changing the plate size, you minimize how much food you actually get. And you'd be surprised after eating off of that, you'd be like, oh, I'm actually full. Like I didn't need that massive amount of food,
Right. And I think a lot of that may come from going back to my country roots, and I'm sure everybody did this too, but you were like, you had to sit there and, no matter how much food was on your plate,
eat it all.
My parents didn't put a whole bunch of food on there, but like you're kind of trained that it's rude to not eat everything on your plate. And a lot of times we're not thinking, am I full yet? You're just focusing on, I got to get everything eaten on this plate because I don't want them to think that, I don't like the food or I'm being rude or anything. So that's a really good tip to, if you get a smaller plate, you're getting smaller portions and you're eating less. And you, like you said, you may actually realize that you were just eating to be eating. You weren't eating because you were necessarily still hungry.
Yeah. Now that is, I guess that is a Southern thing because my mom used to do the same thing. Like, yo, you're not getting up until you eat all your food, like point blank period. Or we used to eat until we got the technical term. I guess it's not a technical term, but the term the itis. You eat till you fall asleep. Like you eat and you're like, all right, I'm about to go ahead and lay down, y'all. See y'all in a couple hours.
Right. And so I think a lot of what we have to do, and, I don't think anybody has ever meant anything, they didn't have any bad intentions, but I think now that, we are learning more, we can do things a little bit differently to still be able to, of course, want to get all our nutrition, but we can do it a little bit differently where it still helps us a little bit more from a health perspective as well.
Yes. All right. So we talked about how changing your diet helped change your cholesterol, made your the hip ache go away. But I want to bring your father back into this as well. How did changing your diet help prepare you for your father's heart attack?
Okay. So that was in May. And then, so I was telling my dad, I was like, hey, do you think because I've talked to him and my mom about it. Actually, my mom had already started for several years. She has started cooking a lot more healthy. And so I was telling my dad about this too. And he was like, well, I wonder, if you got your cholesterol to come down and everything, I wonder what it could do for me because he had high cholesterol as well. And so he had started making some of those changes, more of a vegetarian type deal. And then he went into, being more vegan. And so in July, so it was May. And then that July, he started having chest pain that morning. And so he kind of said, let me go back. So that particular week, I was out on vacation and I was supposed to go to Florida, but something happened and I wasn't able to go to Florida. So what did I do? I went to my parents' house. My family loves to go there anyway because it's quiet, it's peaceful. So we decided to go there. And so he had mentioned that his chest was hurting a little bit that morning, but he just kind of brushed it off. Well, first of all, he didn't tell me about it initially, or I would have made him go somewhere at that moment.
Yeah.
So later on that day, I was upstairs and my mom came up there. She normally, we were getting ready for bed. So it was kind of unusual for her to do that. And she said, well, I just came to tell you, she tried to downplay it because I guess she didn't want me to get excited. She was like, your dad says chest is hurting a little bit. So we're just going to go on to the emergency room. And I'm just like, huh? And so he ended up going. He ended up going, and they found out that he had a heart attack, and one of his arteries was completely blocked. And so, thankfully, again, he went to the doctor, and they took him to the cath lab, and he survived, and everything was okay. And, after that was over, the next day, the cardiologist came back around to see him. And he told my dad, he was like, you know what? It's probably best that you become a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. And so it was almost like, I changed what I was doing with my diet, which influenced my dad to change what he was doing with his diet, so that when he did have this heart attack and the doctor told him that, it was like nothing for him. He was just like, okay, I already started doing that anyway. So being able to share those changes with my dad and for him to not feel like he was forced to do it after that, that really made my entire family happy because we didn't have to try to beg and plead like, please eat differently, all of these things. So it was just amazing to see how those events happen.
Yeah, that's definitely good because, from the South, we do eat a lot of soul food and things like that. And it is hard to get people to break an eating habit that they've had for years. So for the fact that he's already was transitioning, like you said, it was nothing for him to be like, okay, I'm already there. I already understand the meal plans and going right into it. Mm-hmm. So I know you create planners. Did you help your father create like a health planner to keep him online and on guide with this?
So it's kind of by accident, actually. So after he got out of, ICU and came home and everything, I went through all of his medicines, all of the medicines that they took him off, I put them to the side. All of his new medicines, I put them to the side. All of his appointments and specialists, I was able to write those out. And as and of course, I know his full medical history, but it just made me think like people who aren't this close with their family members, or if they're not in the medical field and they don't know exactly what needs to be organized, like, what are they doing? Like, do they even know where to begin? Like, what's important? Like, the cardiologist he called, because at this time, we couldn't go up to the ICU or anything like that. So any questions that they had, my mom and I were able to answer those questions, about, what medicines he was on and anything like that. We had all those things to do that. And, I was like, some people would be in a really, really bad situation if they didn't know that information, and then they didn't know where to look and find that information. So that inspired me to create a health planner that is comprehensive, that's a place you can get it print, or you can keep it on your computer digitally if you needed to share it with someone. And even in a case for, if you are a caregiver for someone, and let's say you needed to go out of town or you needed someone to sit with that particular family member, then, you know, it's nice to have that where you can kind of give it to them and they can kind of see like what's going on as well, like their primary care doctor, their phone number, their pharmacy, their dentist, you know, what medical problems do they have? What food allergies do they have? What drug allergies do they have? What specialists do they see? What facility have they had their mammogram done? They had a CT scan. Why did they have it? Where is it? You know, things like that. So I created this health planner so it can really just help people to focus on whatever is going on at that moment, and not even say you need it in an emergent situation, but just to have it so that, you know, everybody can keep up with what's going on, especially if you have like aging parents or anything like that. So that was one of the moments where I was like, you know, people need to have this so they can have everything in one place. It's easy to read, you know, it is not overly complicated, but it's still very helpful to help them with everything that's going on.
Nice. That is a very essential tool for people, definitely, because I see people coming into the pharmacy, the hospital calling, doing like medication reconciliations, and they're like, hey, what's this person on? What's going on with this person? And they're trying to like call all these different places to find out this information. And then you having such a planner that could be digital or printed, where it can help solve all those issues by having it around. If someone looking for that planner, where can they get that from?
They can go to my website, drandraiaw.com, and you can't miss it. It's on there. And it'll take you through everything that you need to get it. You can just go to my website and then you can purchase it there. But it's super helpful.
Nice. So this planner is something that you could take to regular checkups as well. And so that way people can know the importance of having a regular checkup, right?
Right. And there's also a section in the back where you can take notes, so that if there is something that let's say if you're used to having someone to go to the doctor with you, but they're not there that day, and there's something that you want to make sure that this person is aware of, or just to remind yourself of something specific that you're supposed to be doing by the time you come back for the next visit. There's also a section to help you to keep up with your health goals. So you can say, you know, by this, let's say if you decide you want to, I don't know, start drinking more water, or you want to start exercising more, or you have a goal to lose 10 pounds, you can put kind of a target date, a halfway date. And then, you know, there's a section where you can say, okay, what's my reward going to be once I'm able to achieve this particular health goal? And it's to help you to be more proactive than reactive, and keep everything together so that, you know, health just becomes a part of your taking care of your health, and monitoring your health is a priority, like it is going to the grocery store periodically, you know, to do your grocery shopping or anything like that, you know, things like that, so that it's a part of who you are and not just something that you dread doing, people still may not be, you know, super excited about coming to the doctor, but, you know, it seems like less of a chore to do it. And also it gives you some type of shared decision-making with your doctor, because you feel empowered if you kind of know what's going on. You have everything recorded in one place. And, you know, if you have particular questions, you can write those questions down, or if you get something that changes in your medical history, you're able to record it and make notes, and you have everything. So it empowers families to be able to kind of take ownership of their health from that perspective.
True indeed. And then they can take the planner into their regular checkups, and then they can learn the importance of having regular checkups by the planner to keep them up to date in their medication history.
Right. And it also helps, let's say, if from a primary care perspective, if there is something that I find and I need a specialist to come in and help me with whatever that particular issue is, it's kind of now it's starting to get out of the scope of primary medicine, and I need to refer them to a specialist. Well, if you're able to take this planner with you to the specialist, there's a section for you to write down your family history as well. So it can be helpful to them when they're trying to figure out what's going on, because they can look back through your medical history and say, oh, well, I see that your grandmother had XYZ. And I also noticed that, your sister had XYZ. And then I look on down and your brother had this. So this may be a certain pattern that we may need to go in this direction of looking because of what's happened with, these particular individuals in your family. So not just from a primary care perspective, but if you have to eventually end up seeing a specialist, it can be super, super, super helpful for them to. Sometimes just see, I get
You're all right.
But it's super helpful to help them figure out what's going on as well, to have that as a tool.
Yes, definitely. All right, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about some of your biggest lessons that you've learned while being in medicine.
So one of the biggest lessons that I've learned during medicine, I can say, has been that everybody is different. And I know that should be obvious, but when you're dealing with people who they come from different backgrounds, they have different morals and standards, sometimes it can be hard to kind of break through those barriers in the beginning so that you can actually do what you're called to do. For example, I had this one guy, ended up being one of my best patients, but he initially looked at me one day really strange, and I didn't know what that look was for. And I was like, did I miss something? Do you have a question about something? Did I confuse you? And he looked at me and he said, I'm so glad to have you as my doctor. And, I said, okay, I've heard it many times. He was like, no, you don't understand. He was like, before I met you and I gave you a try, he was just like, I really didn't want to really be around Black people, So that was, and I was just like, in that moment, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. And then he had tears in his eyes, and he was just like, how many good people did I miss out in life just because I looked at the color of their skin? So, that was kind of a in your face moment, like, regardless of the attitudes that people have, like, you never know what barriers they've had up. And it could just be because of what you look like. Those barriers, may have absolutely nothing to do with you and your ability. But you still have to treat people, like they're people and give them the best care. And I had a preceptor once tell me as a medical student, he said, Dr. White, and I was like, yes, sir. And he was just like, you're going to run across some people in this life who are really not going to always treat you the best. But he was like, they're sick and it's your job to treat them. And so that's something that I remember, even from medical school. So it kind of goes back to, with the situation with my dad. I always treat people like they're people. And regardless of what they kind of throw at you, try to look past that. As long if things get a little out of hand, that's, a different story. Yeah. But still try to treat them like family and try to look past whatever it is they're putting up initially to try to figure out what's going on so that you can ultimately help them to get better.
Listen, I didn't mean to laugh at the story. It caught me so off guard. I thought you were about to like.
Yeah, off guard too. I Imagine me.
No, I thought you were going the other way with it. I thought you were about to be like a Black person would have been like, oh, I'm happy to see you as a doctor. It inspires me. But I think that might be on the same level because that is like a top tier compliment. Like, I don't think too many other compliments can come past that when someone says, you helped me break my racial barrier by you being a doctor. Now I have to reassess how I think about other people and my prejudice and biases within myself. Like, I don't know what you did and what kind of like you treated him like a first cousin must be. You gave him the big piece of chicken at dinner. I don't know. But whatever you did, amazing.
Yeah. And I've had, and on another note, I had this patient. It was a Black man. He was close to 90. And, there are so many things that get talked about behind, the medical doors. But he just was getting ready to leave. And he looked at me and he said he was getting teary-eyed too. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we go again. What did I do? But he was just telling me how he was just so proud to be able to actually see me in the position that I am. And, he pointed to a couple of scars that he had. And he was like, these are real battle scars. He was just like, I actually fought, so that people would be able, so that we would be able to have rights and to be able to live and to see you in this position as a doctor. It was overwhelming for him. So those are two moments that I'll probably remember for a very long time. And and it made me happy. And once I left out of the room, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what he probably worked his entire life to be able to see and to actually live and see, me in that position. It did a lot for him. And I'm happy that I was able to be there in that moment to receive that from him and for him to be able to see me there as well.
Listen, you having like top tier compliments. I don't think nobody gonna top this. Listen, we gotta make sure we make all these clips. We gotta let everyone know. Top tier. Man, that's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And at 90 years old, him being in sound mind and body, like he has seen a lot.
He has.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Coming from the South.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was in Alabama. So you can only imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Man, any more lessons? I
think that's it for today.
So I know you do a lot of things with outreach. You're a part of organizations. You're a part of the church. So what's some main messages or what's some outreach programs that you do or you are involved in that you would like to get the world to know?
So one of the nonprofit programs that I'm a part of is in my hometown. Is the United Christian Community Association, and they are able to do a lot of outreach with farmers in the area. They do a lot of work with trying to get community development projects, youth development projects, different partnerships to just kind of get people exposed a lot to agriculture and the different programs that they have to offer with that as well. And I'm also a part of 320 Girls, which is a nonprofit that targets mentoring girls who are high school seniors. Well, they don't necessarily have to be high school seniors, but in high school mostly. And then there's a scholarship that we try to do every year to kind of encourage them to better themselves and to get a higher education or to go into entrepreneurship, different things like that. So giving back, I feel like I've gotten to a point where, of course, I have not arrived, but I'm at a point where I can give back a lot more because the schooling and the residency is no longer a thing at this moment. So there's more time. So there is definitely more time to do more service, community type outreach projects. I do a lot of things with the church. Hopefully that'll start a lot more in person now that things are in a lot better condition in the world. I'll start being able to do a lot more with that as well.
Nice. Let's talk about 320 real quick, because you said some good things that you guys are doing, or you ladies are doing for the community, for the high schoolers. So what high school is you helping out? And then how can someone get in contact with you or any members within the organization if they are an upcoming senior or something like that and want to apply for those scholarships, want to apply to be in your mentoring program?
Okay. So it's in the Birmingham area, and it's not necessarily targeting one specific school, but they just have to be in the Birmingham area. And like I said, since so many things have happened recently, we haven't been able to get that in-person one-on-one mentoring connection. But if they reach out to me on my website, there's a contact section. If you're in high school and you are a girl that's interested, like I say, in health and business and entrepreneurship, or if you don't know exactly what direction that you want to go into, it could be in one of the areas of STEM, and you're still just kind of thinking about where do I want to go after school, after you graduate from school, you can reach out to me and we can decide kind of how we want to connect with you there. And then we can kind of help you figure out what it is that you like and love, or you're interested in, or want to know more about. And then we can help you kind of tease that out to figure out what particular path may be an option for you.
Nice. That's great that you guys are out there mentoring the youth and helping them, give them some direction to lead their life into a better situation. So right. I applaud you guys on that.
And representation matters. That having someone in the health field, the nurse, that was from my church when I grew up, having her there, that was a huge moment in my life that helped me to get to where I am now. So sometimes, somebody may say one word, or they may ask you, one question, and it can change your entire way of thinking just because you were exposed and you had someone to take the time to answer your question and help you kind of figure out some options for you based on, whatever it is that you feel like you may see yourself doing later in life. So, definitely glad that I'm able to be a part of that organization, just because somebody poured into me. So I'm at a point where, I feel like it's definitely important for me to pour into them.
Nice. Man. So this was a great conversation, a great interview, top tier lessons, top tier compliments. So if anybody want to reach you, get in contact with you, I know you give out tips on your social media. Can you let them know how they can do that?
So they can reach out to me at my website, www.drandreiaw.com, and that's DRANDREIA, and I spell it because my first name has an I and it always trips people up, so that's why I spell that. And also at Dr. Andreia W on all social media platforms.
Nice. Dr. Andreia, I really appreciate you taking the time out your busy schedule to come on Pill Talk Podcast, blessing us with some of these amazing stories. Top tier again.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm so happy I was able to come today.
Yes. So Pill Talk Podcast family, this was another episode in the books. Thank you for watching. See you next time.